Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Grisly discovery of two dead men in Toyota Pro Box on Dyke Road. Police investigators made the grisly discovery of two dead men in the trunk of a Toyota Pro Box motor car along the Dyke Road in Portmore, St. Catherine yesterday morning. The bodies, which were wrapped in black tarpaulin, had only been identified by their aliases, Jaja and Blacks, who frequent the Homestead area. We have commenced investigation. We don't have a theory around it just yet, but we suspect that this vehicle was parked here sometime and might be connected to the ongoing gang feud, Senior Superintendent of Police Christopher Phillips, commander of the St. Catherine Police Division, stated. Bladder interscene gang violence has exploded in nearby Spanish Town since Tuesday afternoon, prompting the imposition of a 48-hour curfew after at least 3 men were killed in related incidents in the old capital. Shimmering tensions between rival gang members have claimed several lives in the past 2 weeks, including a quadruple murder in the Railway Lane area close to Townspen. 16-year-old wounded in attempt to rob licensed gun holder charged. A 16-year-old boy is to face the court on charges of assault with intent to rob an illegal possession of firearm following an incident at the location in Kingston 20 2 weeks ago. He is a minor, so his identity has not been released by police. Reports from the police are that about 8:30 p.m. on May 31st, the teen and another male were traveling on a motorcycle when they approached a licensed firearm holder while he was closing his gate. The motorcyclist allegedly turned off the headlamp of the vehicle, and the pillion passenger reportedly got off the bike with a firearm in hand, instructing the man not to move. The licensed firearm holder reportedly pulled his weapon and discharged it at his attackers, who fled. The police said the boy later turned up at hospital with a gunshot wound. He was subsequently pointed out during an identification parade and later charged, the police stated. The police did not provide an update on the other alleged attacker. Man arrested following fatal shooting at bus park in Old Harbour. A male suspect who shot 2 men, one fatally, during an attack on Market Street in Old Harbour, St. Catherine, has been taken into custody. He was held during an operation in Old Harbour. The police report that about 8:30 a.m., armed men made attempted to rob a man in the vicinity of a bus park. They said the man ran and the hoodlums opened fire in his direction. The 2 men who were nearby received gunshot wounds. The police were summoned and the injured men were taken to hospital. One was pronounced dead, while the other was admitted. The deceased is yet to be identified. The joint police-military operation is still in progress, and the police will continue to pursue criminals and restore order, said Senior Superintendent Christopher Phillips, commanding officer for the St. Catherine South Police Division. He is currently leading the operation. Man fatally shot by police in Crab Hall, St. Mary, Indicom probing. A man was shot and killed by the police in the community of Crab Hall in Anoto Bay, St. Mary. He has been identified as 42-year-old Marlon Bell. The incident is being probed by the Independent Commission of Investigations, Indicom. According to Indicom, information from the police is that 3 cops, acting on information, went to a premises where an exchange of gunfire ensued. It was reported that a man was subsequently seen with gunshot injuries. The police reported the recovery of a firearm. The injured man was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Indicom says the cops involved in the shooting provided initial accounts to its investigators and were served with notices to submit statements and attend interviews in relation to the incident. The alleged recovered firearm, as well as the weapons of the cops, were processed and will be transported to the Government Forensics Laboratory for testing, Indicom stated. Former hotel worker who stole licensed gun and raped guests gets 20 years. A former hotel worker who stole the licensed firearm of a male guest at a hotel in St. James and shortly after raped 2 female guests at gunpoint at the same property is to serve 15 years in prison before he can be eligible for parole. Demar Scott, 27, had pleaded guilty in March to the charges when he appeared in the St. James Circuit Court. It was reported that Scott forced himself into the room of 2 female American guests and raped them. While he was raping one of the women, the other managed to overpower Scott, took the gun from him and shot him in the upper body. He ran away after he was shot. One of the women handed over the firearm to the police. The police later found him at hospital, suffering from a gunshot wound, and arrested him. Scott was employed at the Rio Hotel as an entertainment coordinator 2 days before the incident on September 27, 2018. Justice Martin Gale sentenced him last month to 20 years imprisonment for illegal possession of firearm and 6 years imprisonment for illegal possession of ammunition. He was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment each for the 2 counts of rape and was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment each for 2 counts of grievous sexual assault. The sentences are to run concurrently, so he will serve 20 years. The judge ordered that Scott must serve 15 years before he can be eligible for parole. Scott was on March 2, 2018, listed by the Manchester Police via its Coming to Partnership Facebook page as a person of interest in connection with a series of rape in the parish. In the post, a reward of $35,000 was offered to the Manchester Crime Tip Fund for information on Scott's whereabouts. Wrights debates taunting crime response Holness claims. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has argued that his administration response to the country's escalating crime and violence situation is being taunted by debates about rights. We can't respond because every move we make there is some legal argument or some political argument being made about the preservation of rights. The rights of who? It is never a debate about the rights of the victims, Holness declared. He was speaking on the deadly shootings that led to a lockdown of Spanish Town St. Catherine. 3 men were killed in incidents. The police have linked it to internal feud of the one other gang. Holness, who is from Spanish Town, said the situation of organized crime in the old capital is a national emergency. It has the potential, if it is not dealt with strongly and firmly and immediately, to claim many more lives, he stated, noting that the social ethic of Jamaica needs to change to match its irresponsible ethic of those who seek to destroy our society. If you make bad decisions, you must face the consequences. Holness said he wanted to communicate to frustrated Jamaicans who are questioning his administration's response to crime and violence. He argued the debate about rights when his government contemplates security measures does not give enough consideration to the rights of those people who suffer, those people who are killed, those people who are injured in incidents. Justice must be blind, but it cannot be deaf. It has to hear the cries of the victims, said Holness, adding that I can understand that there must be defense of democracy and our rights, and I can understand, and indeed, I am first defender of that. Holness said, we cannot allow an emergency or a disaster to change the liberal nature of our democracy. There is no greater Democrat than myself, and this order will lead to anarchy. And where we have now, the average of people in Jamaica is that if we don't get law, they will settle for order. So those who believe that their eloquent pronouncements about rights are finding favor with the masses of people, what they are doing is increasingly alienating the people from the system of justice and law enforcement. I do not have the luxury to be deterring on these matters anymore. We have to act on it. We have to act to protect the innocent, law-abiding citizens. The debate over the Holness administration's response to crime intensifies last week after Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahoo Ford, said a new Bill Act will be proposed with provisions to deny bail to persons on gun and murder charges. The Constitution guarantees bail for every person charged with an offense subject to some exception to be imposed by a court. The government's use of the state of emergency has also been resulted in criticism. Jamaica has one of the highest murder rates in the world, with more than close to 50%, 100,000 of the population killed yearly. Trust new national ID system, Green urges. Floyd Green, the minister responsible for the National Identification System NIDS, which is slated to make operational this year, is seeking to reassure Jamaicans that the program can be trusted, despite past concerns about the perceived intrusiveness. Green warned that companies and countries which do not accept the world's digital progression will be left behind while the rest of the globe advances, including during times of crisis such as the COVID-19 pandemic. The government is spending $60 million to put in place a system that people can trust, and this is the needs. We are using technology to make what we offer more valuable, said Green, who is a minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister. I want us to see technology as a way to transform our society and to not see it as a foreign concept. Green was speaking at the Tourism Ministerial Forum held at the Montego Bay Conventional Center in Rose Hall, St. James. He pointed to Jamaica's tourism product as an example of several sectors which have had to adjust their operations in the face of global obstacles, particularly the pandemic. The NIDS card is being proposed by the government to eliminate the need for other forms of identification, including photo identification signed by Justices of the Peace. The Registrar General's Department is to be transformed into the National Identification and Registration Authority, which will be responsible for civil registration such as births and deaths and NIDS. A National Identification and Registration Inspectorate is also to be established with responsibility for independently monitoring the authority to ensure compliance with the law. The NIDS architecture is being built on a law that was approved in 2021, concluding a process that was started over 40 years ago. A previous law with significant biometric requirements in addition to being mandatory was struck down in 2019 after a court ruled it was unconstitutional. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.